The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using the promo code RTRS, and brought to you by BodyBio. What's that? New sponsor? That's right. They're helping you live your healthier life with gut and brain supplements. Get 20% off Elite, which we'll talk about later, which I use, Elite right here, or anything else they have with promo code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, now available in 44 states at statesidevodka.com. On the show today, boy, what a great fucking way to end the first half of the season. It looked dark midway through the game, but somehow, some way, behind the efforts of Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, we end the first half of the season with a win over Utah. Incredible. We will update you on the Mike Dream tattoo with Iverson, Embiid, Dawkins, Rollins, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well, boy, do we have an update. How much Mike would trade for Kyle Lowry, yada, 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 yada. Lots of stuff. Before we get going, I mentioned Stateside Vodka. Great news. 44 states Stateside Vodka is available in that you can order online. Just go to statesidevodka.com. It is gluten-free. It's kosher. It's distilled 7 times. It is incredible. The best urban craft vodka in the entire world. The best craft vodka in the entire world. Go to statesidevodka.com. Of course, you can get it here in PA, wine and spirit stores. Get it in Jersey, Delaware, liquor stores. But 44 states you can order at statesidevodka.com. Must be 21 to drink. Please drink responsibly. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who was very close to being just another white guy on the Utah Jazz. That is Mike Levin.
That's a really nice win. That's a really very sort of season-defining win in the first half. I feel very good. I feel very good. I feel very good. How about you?
Yeah, somehow I felt like they were going to win the whole game, even when they were losing. There's this.
I saw you tweet that, and I was kind of with you. You have a generally good handle on fluky score early on.
Yeah,
of whether it's real or not, or how much juice is in the legs.
It's just a different tea leaf. It's a different tea leaf.
I was there as well. I was like, this feels like a game that they win, and they did.
The reason it felt that way to me is I was telling our video producer, CJ, before the pod, I was like, a game like that where the other team's hitting all those shots and the Sixers look terrible, I've seen the blowout version of this game, and it's not the blowout version. Like, losing by 13 isn't the blowout version. Like, there is a different version of that game where they go down 27 and they never recover. And it just wasn't that game. And then, Utah missed just enough shots in the fourth quarter. And I think, everyone on their team is just fraudulent enough to not pull through. And Joel Embiid is not fraudulent. So, and he did. It was a really good win, especially considering when it happened going into the All-Star break, with Brooklyn. I know it doesn't mean anything being in first place at the All-Star break, but Brooklyn's on their tail. Brooklyn's has either won tonight or is going to win. I didn't want to go into the All-Star break a half game out of first. I wanted to go into the All-Star break a half game in first. So good win.
It's just a really nice feeling. I mean, I think there's so many things to just like fix about this team that I think Daryl will try to fix with tinkering and trades and whatever. But when you have the best player in the league, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
And he was incredible, 40 and 19. And like it, obviously he took over, and the 3 to tie it in regulation was incredible. But like he had 20 and 7 in the first half. Like I didn't even register.
Just a casual 20 and 7.
Just casually dominant, nothing, sleepwalking to 20 and 7 in the first half. It's unreal how good he is. I mean, some of the, he didn't really shoot threes much in that game, and then he hit a big one off of a bend post up. He sort of took over a little bit late in regulation. His second jump block on that Gobert dunk attempt was ridiculous. The getting Gobert to bite on a couple pump fakes and finishing, and then sort of bowling into him a couple times, just like he's bigger and stronger and faster and smarter as a player.
Utah Jazz fans staring at Gobert's box plus minus rating while the game was going on did not see those plays.
It's very cool how good he is. It really is just very, very, very cool. And then being as fun as he is to call for Donovan Mitchell's technical foul at the end.
Yeah,
it's I mean, it's unreal how he's the best. He's not the best athlete of all time, but he's close to the best athlete and personality of all time, if you like put it together, as far as just like charisma and talent. There just usually isn't that much of it, and likability and just uniqueness. He's a singular human being, and he also happens to be the best player in the NBA. It's unreal.
Well,
it's unreal that we have him.
He is similar. You've made the Iverson comparison a lot, but I actually think personality-wise, obviously Charles wasn't as good, but Charles was a more similar personality to Embiid than Iverson was, and it resonates. That kind of player resonates in a particular way in Philadelphia. Like Rollins is sort of similar, but Rollins isn't as funny and is a little more snarky at fans. Like it's not the total thing. I do think
he was also like a B+ A- player at his peak, even though he won an MVP. It was a light MVP, and I love Jimmy, but it was a light MVP.
It was a Steve Nash MVP.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think he does remind me a lot of Charles in that way. But obviously, Charles was a great player. Charles is probably a top 5 player, but Embiid is at a completely different level than he is. So
ridiculous. I mean, and the thing that I get frustrated watching, and this might be, I would love to. I can't remember what we asked him when Embiid came on the podcast, but I would love to ask him, he's done drop, pick, and roll defense for most of his career, and he's capable of switching, but I think that, I'd be interested in hearing how he feels about it, because he doesn't seem to love when Donovan Mitchell or guys like that get to just walk into open threes. And maybe that's hey, he's counting on the guard or the wing to fight through that screen and contest better. But it does seem like both Brett and now Doc allowed Joel to just sort of do a lot of drop, pick, and roll defense. And they kept scoring out of that, especially in the second half. And then late in the game, Joel decided that's not going to happen anymore. And he starts hedging. He starts showing a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think he switched once or twice. And then it becomes it's harder for them to get looks. And it's cool to see him adjust, even as he's affecting lobs and getting steals and so coach sort of quarterbacking the whole defense as much as he does.
Well, I think him switching does 2 things in a negative way. The first thing is it pulls him away from the basket, which is a bad thing, which is, I think, exactly what the other team wants. But even from away from the strategic point of view, I forget the article I read. It was a few years ago. It was really about how much 7-footers had to move now that they didn't have to move before, and how their bodies are just not made in a way that even if they're capable of doing it, if they're guarding on the perimeter like that, like it's a strain. And I do think that he's a big guy, and even in great shape, like, he's still a giant guy. I think just in terms of having him fresh at the end of games, if he's switching all the time, I don't know if that's the greatest thing for him in terms of
No, for
energy.
sure. I would be interested in hearing what he thinks about it. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting conversation of like, what do you want to do here? What's like ideal there? Because he has guys in Simmons and Matisse, and I thought Shake's defense was pretty great tonight as well, and he was rewarded by getting a lot of crunch time minutes from Doc. He has guys who do fight through screens and do contest those little runners and stuff. It's just when that screen is higher, and then they can walk into threes rather than that sort of weird, 12-foot floater pull up type of thing. Then that becomes like kind of a tougher shot, or at least a shot that they're not as comfortable taking.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in hearing what he had to say about it. I also thought it was it was, Tobias' first game back. Good to have him back. It was good to just see him out there struggling. Couldn't really get his touch. Wasn't really getting that many chances at it. And then all of a sudden just took over.
Yeah.
Just took over in overtime. And they kept going to him. Finishes with 22 and 10. Pretty much, won them the game in overtime. Got the matchup that they wanted on Bogdanovic, who's not a bad defender by any means, but they, just took care of business. It's a really nice win for there were like a lot of things to be upset about in that game, and Utah's this particular matchup that highlights their flaws, right? Teams who have a ton of shooters, a ton of guys who can drive and kick and move and swing the ball fast and make decisions and get buckets in the pick and roll, and they rotate well and they protect the rim, all that stuff. And the Sixers, in the first game against Utah, this was without Embiid. This Harrison Grimm of Liberty Ballers tweeted this, that they were 1 for 6 from 3 at half of the last Jazz game and 1 for 8 from 3 at half of this game. And it's just like, that's really tough. It's tough to win like that.
What's funny is
it's just you're not going to beat a team that's shooting as well as the Jazz when you do that.
What's funny is like, as you're saying that, in my head, I'm doing the show in which they lost. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you go, they played well and they got close, but when the other team can make 26 threes, the math just, I think I can do the show.
Yeah. There's an alternate reality where we're doing the show for sure. I had to, I told this, but I had to take a work call. I had a scheduled work call at 6:30 my time, so I was like, the game will be over. It'll be just over. And then Embiid hits the 3, and then I have to hop on a Zoom with some studio executives giving notes on a script, and it's just like just the game paused behind me. I was like, I'm so not paying attention. We're like, can we save the character? What if there's like a little scene? I'm like, I don't care. Whatever you want, fine. Move it along. And it's really nice that we got a win out of that. It would have been a bummer if I had to take that call and then sat with a loss.
I knew that 3 was going in, by the way. I don't know if you did. I was
what a horrible shot.
Yeah.
That only he could make. He just
walks back to the 3-point line.
Oh my God. Ridiculous.
And by the way, it was Bogdanovic there, plays it like almost perfectly, gets right up in his face, doesn't foul him, puts his arms up. Yeah, really incredible. They got it. Speaking of which, man, I'm not the first person to say this, and I don't want to belabor it, but like, the 3-pointer foul hunting sucks. It just
in the league in general, or the Sixers.
Yeah,
I agree.
It sucks. It's just like, and it's so easily. Do you know how to stop it? Here's how you stop it. Don't fucking call it. Like
Well, it's got to be like a league announcement.
Yes.
In the offseason type of thing.
Yeah, but it also like I think it's probably written into the rules that it has to be a natural shooting motion. Like throwing your hip out to get the guy to touch you. It's just like, I don't know.
It's one thing if you get a guy to bump and he just collapses right into you. That was, after the Zaza Pachulia Kawhi play in the playoffs.
Right.
Like you want to protect shooters so they're not landing at whatever. But it shouldn't just be you get anyone contesting anything, you can just sort of veer in their direction and fly into them, and that's a natural shooting motion. I think it just should be like there should be a lot more common sense in refereeing, and there's a lot of times not.
Mike, so our new sponsor actually made my life better over the last month. If you're watching on YouTube, this is called E-Light. from BodyBio. So BodyBio is a local company right here in Philly, like owned by family. I talked to the sister and the brother, and they make supplements. One of the good things about a local company doing it, a small local company, is that the science on this stuff changes constantly. So they can change their formulas and change their products really quickly. Okay, so this problem I had, what is the problem I had? How did it fix it? So I run, but I'm bad at hydrating. I'm bad at drinking. I don't drink Gatorade, nothing. And I get these cramps in my feet constantly. When we're doing the pod, I will get cramps in my feet. I drive stick shift. When I'm driving, I will get a cramp in my foot. And I could not get rid of them. So this stuff, like Gatorade, all that other shit full of sugar, full of artificial flavors, you just take a capful of it twice a day. It's like a little salty. It doesn't, it tastes a little weird. You put it in water or whatever you're drinking in the morning and at night, and I have not had cramps in my feet or in my hamstrings or my calves since in like a month.
Really?
It's unbelievable. It's a little salty, but I put it in Spindrift in the morning and I don't even taste it. It's incredible. If you go to bodybio.com and use the promo code RTRS20, you'll get 20% off. They have a small version of this. This is the 16 ounce. I think it's $24, but the small version is like 8 ounces if you just want to give it a try. And you just need a capful twice a day. What BodyBio does as a company is they focus on two things, like your gut health and your brain. Those are the two most important things. You're like Mike, you probably know from having stomach issues, your gut controls the health of the rest of your body. And they focus on cells because everything in your body is made up of cells. We'll tell you about the other stuff that they make, but like Elite, it's incredible. And along with getting rid of the cramps, your stamina is going to be better when you exercise. You're not going to be as tired. Hydration is so fucking important. Like energy levels are going to be better. No sugar, no flavors, just Elite. So go to bodybio.com. That's bodybio.com. They're going to sponsor MOC's videos and MOC and all that kind of shit too. Love having them on. Use promo code RTRS20 and you'll get 20% off anything you want on the store. Not first order, any order. So BodyBio, Elite. They sent you a bunch of pills and shit. You should take the butyrate. They sent you butyrate. You should take that. It's good for your stomach.
Nice.
Good for your gut. Okay, BodyBio. Thank you for sponsoring us, BodyBio. Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome to the family. Tobias, real quick on Tobias. Real quick on Tobias. I just thought it was amazing that he was... I didn't notice him the entire game. He was basically invisible. And then all of a sudden, not only was he scoring in overtime, they were giving him the ball like he was like Jordan. Like they were like, just keep giving it to Toby. And I thought it was like an amazing thing that he had such a zero game. And like, not only was he having a good overtime, but they were feeding him, It's nice
to see. And I think, we'll talk about Lowry again probably, but it's nice that the team has multiple ways to beat you. Mm-hmm. And I think that each guy, especially the main guys, that the main three guys are very willing to, especially on this team, maybe not in years past, but willing to defer to whoever is hot or whoever has the best matchup. And it's cool to see. Like, it's cool to see, Ben deferring to Shake when Shake is hot. It's cool to see Embiid deferring to either of those guys with Tobias if they're hot.
Well, the thing about Embiid is Embiid just wishes somebody would do it. Like he wants to do it, but he would love to have somebody do it. That's why I like Jimmy so much. That's why I like Butler so much. Yeah.
There was, so broadly, and we can talk more about individual guys, but there was the Sixers are turning the ball over too much, and part of that is is not having a primary ball handler that
a point guard
just handles it all.
A point guard,
basically.
They don't have a point guard.
They have good. I mean, they don't have a traditional, like, because Simmons does point guard things. He just doesn't do every point guard thing.
Yeah.
And there was a good Zach Graham article on The Ringer about why the Sixers turn the ball over so much. And some of it's Ben forcing it. Some of it's Joel just sloppiness passing wise. It noted how bad of an assist to turnover ratio Joel has for how the amount of points he scores per game, which, although you noted in I think our Zach interview, right, that his assist to turnover ratio has gone up each season, it's still not what you want it to be. And then it's also Dwight committing offensive fouls at a historic rate that drew a name drop of Danny Fortson, which is not company you want to be in as far as how many offensive fouls you're giving.
Cincinnati's Danny Fortson.
Yeah. Hey, look at you knowing colleges.
Yeah.
And so you watch these guys, and they had a good game tonight. They didn't turn the ball over 11 times, and every game you're watching this team and you're like, it's either turnovers or 3-point differential every night. Either they're turning the ball over too much, giving it up, or they are getting outshot from three and not either not contesting shots enough or not getting them up enough. And so you're watching Seth pass him up. You're watching Tobias pass him up. Even Embiid passes him up sometimes. Shake is cold again. Matisse, everybody except for Korkmaz and probably Danny Green are guys who just don't take contested threes. And so you're watching it and you're just it's one of those things every game.
And both of those things would be remedied at least in part.
Yeah,
by a point guard.
Yeah. Well, yes, but I mean, you watch Ben, and he is we talked about this when he's had a couple games. They're just you miss how many open threes he generates for guys, but he can't make them shoot them. You know what I mean? If there's if it's a relatively contested, not a blanketed, but just a little bit of a contested, you still want those guys taking that shot. You still want Seth Curry taking shots when there's guys running at him, but he just doesn't do it. He just won't do it. There was a good AU article about Seth and Danny being as weird as they are on the Ricky website.
AU's kind of in a zone right now. I feel like he's been in a 6-week zone. I think you should go read AU.
Yeah, always read AU. But there's Dwight hit a 3 tonight. There's an argument to be made that Dwight is the third best shooter on the team. I think if he shot more often, I think he could be the third best shooter on the team. Just because he's willing to no one's going to block it. It's fine. So I would love to see it. I would love to see more of that, but it's hard to get mad about it in a good win going into the All-Star break against the best team in the league. It's hard to get that upset about it, but I feel good. And then I want to talk about the bench unless you have comment on that.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd say is that they are. I don't think that the issues that you're talking about, we can say, oh, Joel should shoot more threes, Toby should shoot more threes, yada, yada, yada. These things are not fixable with the current personnel in any meaningful way, I don't think.
I agree with that.
So I think given
it's like levels, you can get them a little bit more, but they're not going to become like hoisters, and you kind of need them to be a little bit more.
Right, and when things get tough, I think sometimes the player will default to what is most comfortable for them, right. And that's not doing those things. So that being said, I think they're clearly making the most of what they can do right now, given those deficiencies. So to be outshot that way from three, still win the game is a testament. And by the way, I think Ben only shot 4 free throws again. So it's not even like they were two. There you go. So it's not even like there was a parade to the free throw line or anything. I honestly don't even know how it happened. I guess it was just Embiid. I can't even remember how they won. Oh, and they
did outshoot them from the line by quite a bit.
Okay.
But between Toby and Shake, they got Dwight Korkmaz got in there. There was just a bunch of guys, and then Embiid got his 13. It was interesting. So the Doc gets panned pretty regularly for his rotations, as kind of every coach does. That's sort
what
of
we complain about.
That you're gonna. Yep. That's a very easy thing to talk about. Why are you playing this guy and not that guy? But the Doc specific part of it is that he plays the entire bench at once, which is a choice. That is a choice that he is making that other coaches generally do not make. And it means the Sixers have a core unit of their starters playing really well together for a long time, and they're the best unit. So that leads to a lot of winning. But it also means those leads evaporate very quickly a lot of the time when the bench is in. So today, in this Jazz game, the bench was very bad in the first half. Gave up
incredibly bad.
Wasn't there? There was no movement because you're just watching Matisse and Mike Scott and Dwight kind of just standing there for the most part, while either Korkmaz or Shake sort of weaves in and out, just dying to find any level of daylight they can get a shot off. And it's just not that sustainable. And so even though I like some of those individual bench guys, it is tough to play them all at once. And Kyle Neubeck, people on Twitter talking about like, will Doc adjust? He can't go back to that lineup against a good team like the Jazz.
And he did it.
He goes exactly back to that lineup in the second half. And I was like sort of grumbling to myself. I had it in my notes, and I'm like, okay, the deficit is 5. Let's see how much it balloons to. I even wrote like ballooning the deficit 2, and I just put like a bunch of dots, like waiting for it to happen. And they come back and take the lead. And it's just on a Dwight 3, a Korkmaz floater to tie it right in AU's face.
The first floater
Mike's got 3.
Maybe
the first floater he's made all season. Yeah. And so it's interesting. I mean, I don't think that that's a sustainable strategy.
No.
It's certainly you're not going to do that in the playoffs because you're just not going to play that many bench guys. But it's hard to find fault in it when it works.
No. It's easy to find fault in it, but
sure.
Tonight, Doc wins.
Yeah. It's a fine line, right? Of being like, I want to trust my players. I want to trust, we talk, obviously process over results. We don't think that the process here is sound. But Doc does, and so in his mind, the process of they had Doc's, but he has the idea that this bench lineup is going to work, and so one bad half against a good team where they hit shots is not going to deter me. And I was like, okay, maybe you should adjust. He doesn't, and he's rewarded for it, and it's cool to see those guys play well. It's cool to see. I mean, that's two good Dwight games in a row. It's pretty rare these days.
He shot that 3 so confidently.
Yeah.
He works on them
doing warm-ups like he knows how to do it. Yeah, absolutely. We get a Ben 3 and a Dwight 3 in the same week. It's pretty good.
And by the way, one of my bold preseason predictions was more Dwight made 3s than Ben made 3s.
It's close.
Yeah, he's got 4. Dwight's got 4 made 3s.
And how many does Ben have? 2, 3?
2.
Okay.
Yeah. And the funny thing about the bench is I hate talking about rotations. I hate talking about what the coach does because I don't fucking know. But the first time I decide to say something on Twitter about what Doc Rivers is doing is in the first half with the all bench unit. I'm thinking I said, I wouldn't do this. And then of course, I was just asking for it. It's a good win, man.
It's a good win.
Good win.
A couple things about Ben. It's just so nice to see him. Like sometimes he is leading the fast break well and finding shooters, or finishing strong or getting his hands in there, whatever. And for years it hasn't been there, but a couple years ago he was, getting into his hook shot, finding those little spins. And having that touch in the 4 to 8 feet range. And right now he's got both. And it's really rare to see him succeeding on every level that he can succeed on at the same time. And it's really cool. The aggressiveness, but also with the power, but also with touch and finesse. It's really nice to see 8 of 11 from the field, 17 points, scoring around good defenders. Rudy Gobert, everybody was scoring around Rudy Gobert tonight. Not just Embiid, obviously moved him off a lot, but Ben was finishing around Gobert. Shake, I think, was finishing nicely around Gobert, getting him to bite, and Shake threw a nice lob to Dwight with his left hand, which is pretty dope. I thought Ben was great. He didn't have a dominant game by any means, but to see him feel that confident and comfortable in that middle distance, and also getting out in transition and finding shooters, all that stuff, it's great. It's fun to see, and it is rare to beat a team that hits 23 threes or whatever they hit. It was unbelievable, including the very obvious Donovan Mitchell end of the shot clock heave that was automatically going in, and then the Clarkson banking in a straightaway 3. It just those are the kinds of shots we know. Fred VanVleet just hit that one. It's the same thing. But it's it's a real, even though Embiid had 40 and 19, you could put it all on him, but it was a real team effort tonight. I feel good about it.
Mm-hmm. I do too. You mentioned Gobert. Dude, that guy is a fraud. He's just not that good. I don't care what any advanced defensive metric says. I watch the games, and he is big, but he's all thumbs on offense. He's he's not that good, man. He's not worth what he's getting paid. He's not that good. And Donovan Mitchell's a good player, and I joke about him being a six man. He would be a great six man. I joke about that, but there's something like, have you ever? No, I don't. You watch TV critically, right? You watch TV like if you're watching a comedy or something, you watch it sort of like critically. I would imagine that sometimes when you're watching it, you're like, oh man, 85% of the way there, but didn't get it all.
Sure.
That's what he is. He's like 85% of the way there to being like the player he thinks he is, but he's not quite it.
What do you think he's missing?
Well, he doesn't have great touch around the rim, and he's not like he laid some balls up pretty confidently, like high off the glass that wasn't even close. And I just don't think he has an incredible feel for the game. Like, you either have to be one or the other. You either have to be like really good at creating or really good at scoring. And I think he's like good at scoring. He's pretty good at creating. He's a pretty good shooter, but like, I don't know, man. He's had some wonderful games, but like he feels like there's something missing to me when I'm watching.
You're talking about Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about Gobert first.
No, Gobert's a fraud. He's just not that good.
Full fraud.
Yeah. There's no way. This is what I would say. If you just taking Zach Lowe out of the equation, who obviously watches basketball different than the rest of us, if you just put regular people watching him, and you didn't get to go to Basketball Reference and look at his defensive box plus minuses or his DRPM, there's no way you would think he was good. There's just no way. And those numbers are too fraudulent to depend on. I have to depend on my eyes, and my eyes say he is a fraud.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I think Gobert looks worse when he's playing against Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid does almost all of the things Gobert does, and then a bunch of other things a lot better. I think that, I think you could take. I think I've said this before. You could take Donovan Mitchell off this Jazz team, and maybe that's just Quinn Snyder's system. Former Sixers coach Quinn Snyder, by the way, assistant. And replace him give Clarkson all of his minutes, and this team would look about the same. If you took Gobert off this team, they would not be the same team. I think that he is, even if he doesn't impact the stat sheet as much, or even if he's very limited offensively, if he's like if he's like Tyson Chandler with more length and less pop, he's still like a real fulcrum of this team on both ends, and I think he is good, but not as good as Embiid, and probably shouldn't be Defensive Player of the Year at any point.
Yeah. You know what I like about you? I mean, many things, but you telling me, no, he's actually good, and then this $38 million a year player is just like Tyson Chandler with more length.
No, he's not $38 million a year.
He has max contract. He's 35 or whatever it is.
Gobert's $35 million?
Yeah. I mean, look it up. I'm going to talk about Sixers championship odds here because I got to talk about DraftKings. Look up how much he makes. So you're aghast.
I am aghast.
So Sixers right now at DraftKings go at midway point of the season are plus 1,200 to win the title. That's about 7%.
$43 million in 2024.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So
good thing we'll be dead by then. That was a tough contract that nobody wants to pay.
I love your genuine surprise. He's making $40 million.
Surprising.
Lakers are the favorite at plus 250. Nets at plus 320. Sixers sitting at plus 1,200. And then to win the conference, they are plus 550. But here's the one that I'm very excited about. Is Embiid. We gave that odds boost a while ago. LeBron is still the favorite at plus 175, but Embiid at plus 275, right on his tail. So loving it. DraftKings.
So wait, LeBron is still favored?
Yeah. Well,
that really shouldn't be the case.
That
really, 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 really should not be the case.
It's insane. It's like Ramona Shelbourne's probably on the fucking app just betting it over and over and over again to keep the odds low. Windhorst, Dave McManaman, just all fucking betting it. UFC 259 is this weekend. 3 title fights, one night. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. You are in the center of the action this weekend. 100-1 odds on either fighter to land a punch during the title fight. Not to win, to land a punch. Pick either main event fighter to land a punch during UFC 259. And
it's a fun thing to bet against.
Yeah. I don't know if you can bet against it.
Miss him!
Can you imagine not getting paid out on it because the guy doesn't land a punch? 100-1 odds to land a punch. Bet $1, they land a punch, you get $100. You don't even need any knowledge of UFC or MMA to bet that. But if you do, other things to bet, obviously on DraftKings. And baseball futures up there now. You bet hockey, bet NBA, and then college basketball coming up too. Safe, reliable. You deposit, your money's right there. You withdraw, your money's right there, right in your bank account. I use PayPal to withdraw, but they can send you a check, whatever the fuck you want. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code RTRS when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if either main event fighter lands a punch on Saturday. Place your bet and watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code RTRS to turn $1 into $100 if either fighter lands a punch. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. How much is Gobert making this year?
26, I think, but his contract kicks in for like 34.5 next year, I think.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
I got to give out a couple more things. I got to give out the Danny of the game.
Who does it go to?
The Danny of this game goes to Matisse with a minute and 40 seconds left, walking onto the court in his warm-ups, checking into the game in his warm-ups.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, pretty good. Very charming, and made a funny little smirk afterwards. But that's the Danny of the game. Not a great game for Danny, but nothing too out of the ordinary for him.
Matisse's nickname should be the Blonde or something. Like, I've never seen a flightier dude than him. He's just
very bright guy, but yeah,
flighty.
I think really him and Danny are a perfect Spider-Man meme for each other. I want to point out, so the Pacers game was great. That was a great game. Just a really nice power victory of success. It was just that's a good Pacers team, even though they're down a bunch of guys. And to just sort of take care of business was really nice. I want to call out Korkmaz because I think he's been great lately after getting benched for Isaiah Joe. His pump fake and sidestep is looking great. I think his defense, I'm doing it again. I think Korkmaz's defense is improving. I think it's gotten better. He's getting his hands in there on drives in passing lanes. He's walling up verticality-wise. I also want to call out Tobias's hands, which I think are consistently great as well. Had a couple nice slap downs today. There was one play. I think it was in the second quarter or something in that Pacers game when Korkmaz hit a couple in a row off an Embiid post from the opposite corner. Mm-hmm. And there was one play in particular. This is more of a Matisse compliment, but it's kind of an Embiid compliment also. When Embiid gets the ball in the post, it's amazing. You watch all five guys on the other team look at him, and it's so cool to see that because it just doesn't happen in any other NBA situation. I think Jokic maybe, but I think with Jokic he's such a good passer that guys are concerned about him. If they have their head turned, he's going to find the passer. He's going to find the cutter. Embiid, they're just staring at him, and it's really very cool. It's like the hottest person just walked into a party and everyone's like looking at him. It's like, oh my God, I got to check this person out. And so they do that for Embiid. Matisse sets a screen for on Korkmaz's guy. Korkmaz drifts to the corner, and then McDermott pinches in underneath to try to help. But then McDermott was still going to go back to Furkan in the corner. Matisse sees that. Matisse cuts down the lane, brings Doug McDermott in, and then Embiid finds Korkmaz in the corner and he hits a three. And then Pacers called timeout, and Embiid high-fived everybody after that stoppage. And Embiid grabs Matisse and points to him a couple times and was like, "Hey, you did that. You made that cut happen." And that's a nice display of A, court awareness from Matisse, B, making the shot from Korkmaz, and C, leadership from Joel in calling out the role players when they do a small thing that's not going to show up in the box score. And I really loved it. I really enjoyed myself.
I can't remember if it was the Indiana game, but there was another sort of tense Do you remember a tense Shake Embiid moment recently?
No.
God, friggin', there's so many games anymore, and
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody who's listening saw it, and I think it was near the free throw line. I wonder if those dudes, there's like Shake seems like an intense, like a cool guy, but pretty intense on the court. He seems like a particularly intense guy, you know?
I do think he's feeling good again. I think he's getting some of it back. It's weird that the ball looks heavy again when he shoots threes. I can't really tell what's going on there, but in the mid, he's back to like feeling sort of saucy with the ball in his hands in that middle distance. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough balance of, and maybe this is just the role Doc gave him, but it's a balance of him feeling good with his mid range and then kind of being like too much of a ball hog. You know what I mean? Like where the ball doesn't really move on bench possessions when Shake gets the ball sometimes. It's a tough spot of knowing how much to do that. And I feel the same with Maxey, and that maybe it's just Doc sort of telling those guys like, you're the offense, go get the offense. But I would love some more, and maybe this comes with better shooters and playmakers around. I would love a little bit more like creating for others, which Shake does, which they both do sometimes, especially the rolling big man. But I'd like to see a little bit more of it.
You ready to? I think it's actually sort of apt. So I want to frame this again because some people asked when I mentioned this tattoo where this came from. A few pods ago, you were feeling the joy of Joel Embiid. It was after the 50-point game, right? When you came up with this image.
It's been a good year. It could have been any time after any Embiid game.
I think it was after the 50-point game. Mike came into the pod particularly Philly fanned up, and he described an image. He said that
I was pretty flyed up, I think. Actually,
yeah, you were. You were bleeding green.
I was bleeding green.
You're painting the town red.
That's right.
And you were running with us. Or here they coming. So anyway, Mike said that Embiid was like the best parts of like Iverson, Jimmy Rollins.
That's right.
Brian Dawkins. Mm-hmm. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
No. I didn't say that. I didn't say he was. Embiid doesn't have any Ruth Bader Ginsburg in him. I just think it's the kind of it brought to mind the image of him as equal parts of those three Philadelphia athletes of yore. What was the kind of thing where they would look down from the heavens,
right,
and like be proud of them, and inexplicably there would also be a Ruth Bader Ginsburg up there.
Right. Rest okay. For sure. And I've seen that sort of image online. You sent me that. So
it might even be just from Happy Gilmore a little bit of
right
of what's his
end.
name and the alligator.
Doesn't Joe Dirt have a similar thing at the end? I think
might have been. Great movie. Love that movie.
Love Joe Dirt. Huge fan.
Yeah.
Gets better every time.
Come on.
So somebody wrote in and suggested that you get that as a tattoo if the Sixers win the championship.
Absolutely not. I'm not getting a tattoo. First, there's just it's just the foreverness of it, is insane. There's someone that got years ago got like a Q tattoo, and then now that means something else, and it's just like, well, fuck. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting anything that's permanent.
Well, everything you do is permanent. That's my wrap on that. But in any case, everything's permanent and nothing's permanent. In any case, we mentioned that, and several people basically volunteered to get this tattoo, as long as we had it paid for. So, the gentleman that wrote in actually suggested that he would get the tattoo. So I asked a couple of them, I'm like, look, if we can really make this happen, are you actually going to do this? The answer is yes. So I I've had a couple of different tattoo artists that I've been to several times, Tim the most though. So Tim Pangburn, who was actually going to tattoo on stage for us, did my Rebel tattoo and a bunch of stuff. I'm like, Tim, here's my idea. You come up with this art, you tattoo it on this guy, we live stream it on the internet, but also we make a t-shirt out of it and we sell the t-shirt and give all the money to charity. And I describe the tattoo and I send him the picture that you sent me. And I was like, if you're not into this, it's totally fine. And he was like, that seems ridiculous. I'm totally in. So he's in, figure around May, like maybe before the playoffs. But we have volunteers, so this tattoo is going to be on somebody.
It's very exciting that I have now the power of jurisdiction over other people's bodies. It's pretty good bet. I was thinking also as sort of this, like, just like we are watching Embiid. It's a historic season. Like we have to pause frequently and appreciate how good he is. Like there's a inevitability to Joel right now, like Derrick Henry running the ball or like a Mariano Rivera cutter. Like, you know, it's going to happen, and you just can't do anything to stop it. And it's very awesome. It's just so good. And I just really want to appreciate how excellent and how healthy he is. There's still times when it's like he doesn't get enough foul calls. Sometimes he like tries to sell the foul calls and it's frustrating. I think that he gets there's some big man prejudice of like he's big enough, you can take it. Like,
Shaq got it. Like,
just deal with it, whatever kind of thing.
Michael Vick got it. Not as a big man, but like they hit him. They let people hit him different.
You're so fast, whatever.
Yeah.
Screw off. So I think that that's something that's working against him. But he's even with all that, he's still. I mean, he's excellent. Like he's shooting around 40% from three. His career highs from everywhere. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's not. And he's still a willingness to pass and share the ball and create and stuff. And we haven't talked about the vibes in a while, but the vibes are great. The vibes are very good, even with Tobias not making the All-Star game. The vibes between the three of those guys and everybody else are at an all-time high.
Well, Tobias gets a few days off. Honestly, I'm not.
They all deserve it.
Yeah,
all of them.
The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week comes from CFTV Data. You can leave your comments down there. Maybe you'll get in this. Teams don't trade away their franchise players for nothing. I can't see the Raptors sending Lowry to Philly for less than A, Thibault plus Maxey plus an unprotected first, or B, Simmons with at least one Raptors first included. And that's why I don't see it happening. It's probably too high a price for the Sixers to pay, especially the latter. I've been wrong before, but I doubt I'm wrong on this one. So I ask you this, Mike. ESPN did a column today on the 5 trades they wanted to happen, and one of them is a 3-team trade with Toronto, Cleveland, and the Sixers. In return, they get Kyle Lowry. They trade the, Ferguson, Danny Green, Mike Scott triumvirate. And they also had the Sixers giving up Maxey, the 2021 first, lottery protected 2023 first, and 2024 Miami second. Are you giving up 2 firsts, Maxey, and a second for Kyle Lowry, if that's the price?
If it's that or nothing, like in a world where it's straight up that or nothing.
It's that, or maybe you get George Hill for a second, or, like it's that or scrap heap type stuff.
Can you at least give me like some level of guarantee from Kyle Lowry's agents that he would sign a retire here deal 2 years for however much the Sixers can offer him?
I would say that you're probably not getting it for less than the Millsap 2 years 40, I think.
I think there's a limit on how much the Sixers can offer, so it's whatever that is. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know if they can give him that much. Yeah.
Are they hard capped or something? It's their I don't know. The money.
We'll bring on Sixers Adam to ask once the trade happens to ask him how
fucking
much
annoying stuff. Whatever it is, no sweetheart deals. Fair deal, but not like he's not signing another 3 years, $90 million.
No.
Yeah.
If there's some guarantee of like we can make it work, he can stay here, then I probably would, because I think that this team could win a championship, and then who really cares that you lost that? But that's a lot. I wouldn't love to do it. I really wouldn't. It can't be said enough. Like this isn't their franchise player anymore. Like Fred VanVleet is their guy. I would say as far as like who the Raptors are trying to build around, it's VanVleet, it's Siakam, and it's Anunoby. Lowry is like, he's still very good. Like he's still excellent, especially at his age. It's ridiculous how good he is still. I think if LeBron wasn't doing it, we'd be talking about how good Kyle Lowry still is somehow. But he's expiring. They have his replacement there already and playing well. this would be hey, you won a championship with us. Where do you want to go? We're doing you a favor.
Assuming that here is where he wants to go.
Yes, right. Which is what the reports say, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So I would probably do 2 high level assets, whether that's
but not 3. That's basically
but
3.
Not 3.
I named 3. Okay.
I would probably do Maxey and this year's first. I wouldn't be pumped about it, but if with some level of a wink and a nod that Lowry would sign here for 2 more years, then I would feel okay about it. But I wouldn't do a third thing. It's just like it's a lot. It's too much for a guy that still he might walk or he might get hurt and then that's it for half a season.
Yeah, and they also he might walk or they might just not win the championship. Like they could trade for Kyle Lowry, still lose to the Nets. It doesn't. It
also and I think Kyle Lowry is significantly better than Danny Green, but like losing Danny Green is not nothing. Like Danny Green is a starter on this team and a starter on one of the best starting lineups in basketball. And so in the sense of even as Kyle Lowry I think is a perfect fit on this team, integrating and finding a way to replace the value that Danny gives you is meaningful. And I think that trading too much in addition to that starts to hamstring you as far as like, well, what other moves can we make?
Right.
You start to run out of juice pretty quick.
Yeah, and I do think like I know you poo-pooed it in joy, but there's really once they get back, 8 weeks left in the season. Well, you were joyous.
I poo-poo everything in joy.
Yeah, in a season where there's no practice, less than normal. This second half is going to be really short, and you're integrating essentially your point guard. It's not super easy to do that.
Yeah,
I'm saying. So before we get to the mailbag, I would like to assure everyone, and this is connected to someone else. On the last pod, I guess Rebel was barking, and I muted it to yell at him, which you would have only seen on YouTube. But then I came back on, and I said I was going to fucking kill him. And a couple people emailed, worried. Let me tell you, there is no one less likely to do something bad to their dog than me. I would never kill Rebel. I won't even yell at him to his face. I think I yelled at him once, and then I apologized to him a minute later. So you have nothing to worry about. Because I care about my dog, I make sure he has one of these processed pup patches from Big Barker Dog Beds. Get your dog one of these. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky and get him a Big Barker therapeutic dog bed. If you care about your dog, you'll get him this because it is the healthiest thing that your dog can sleep on. We're about health here, and occasionally alcohol and gambling, but health is number one. And these beds are actually made to keep your dog healthier. Wow, imagine that. And think about down the line how much you go, oh, Big Barker's $230. I'm not spending $200 on a dog bed. Well, think of this. You're going to buy one at the pet store. It's $50. It's a piece of shit. You're going to have to buy a new one every year or 18 months. The Big Barker dog bed, 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or you replace it for free. And how about this? Think of the medical bills down the line as your dog ends up with joint issues and is...
It's an investment.
It is, but I'm not even kidding. It's like you invest in your health so you feel better down the line. It's the same thing with your dog, and you care about how happy they are, and the Big Barker will make them happy. BigBarker.com/Ricky. You'll get 2 of these patches, and you get the amazing bed. As I mentioned, the 10-year warranty, 1-year at-home trial, the foam, or if you don't like it, they'll send you a full refund and even pay for the shipping. Made here in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Woo! All right, some mailbag questions.
Wait, before that.
Yeah.
The Sixers and I guess the governor announcing that fans will be back in limited capacity after the All-Star break.
Sunday, I think is the first game. 3,000 tickets. Interestingly, I'm a season ticket holder. I have not received an email from the Sixers about... Now, I don't begrudge anybody who goes. I ain't fucking going. But I have no interest. But... I thought it was interesting that I figured as soon as that happened, I would get an email. I have received no communication, so I don't know I know the
might have been only residents of New Philadelphia that got it. I don't know if you're in there.
In New Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay. I assume they're doing the same thing that the Flyers are doing in that they're only selling tickets month to month. Like they're only doing the first month of games, and they're doing a lottery for how many tickets you can get. I mean, look, man, if you feel comfortable going to a game, have at it. I would assume, I know the Wells Fargo Center invested like $15 million in a new ventilation system to be like compliant with whatever was required, which is not a small investment. I'm sure they will do the best they can at keeping it safe. And all I hope is that like vaccine moves quick enough to where like this becomes less and less of a concern as the season goes on. I just hope everybody's okay.
Agree a lot. I hope that the arena is helping the people working there to try to like get slots to get vaccinated. That would be a nice thing. The people that are most at risk and interacting with people, it would be good to get them taken care of. I know that, the past few months in California has been, especially LA, has been really, really bad, and from the November, December, January, and it's gotten way, way, way better over the last month or so. And I think that's part of it is just like there's not many people left to get infected, but also the vaccinations and stuff is allowing things to sort of go back to normal and the percentages to go down and everything. And I think during this podcast, Alyssa, John Gonzalez, and Colleen Wolfe are texting up a storm. I might have just booked a vaccine appointment during this podcast, so I'm not sure.
Congrats
with the new stuff. So we'll find out after this. But it'd be great to have the fans back. The Sixers need to be bullied by their fans, and hopefully we can do it in a safe way that allows everybody to not get this fucking plague, and we can be back to full health, especially in time for the playoffs. That would be very, very cool. I would love that.
I just like imagining the cheering with like the muffle over it, so it's the same loudness, just a lack of clarity.
Yeah. Well, hoagie mouth with a mask, screaming, booing is already
speaking of which. Did you hear the hoagie mouth guy yelling toward the end of the game?
Who was that guy? Who do you think that guy was?
Well, there's only employees in there. I have no fucking
In my
idea.
mind, it was Daryl. In my mind, it was just like a very like boozed up Daryl.
But the guy sounded kind of hoagie. I don't know.
Maybe he just got the accent. Maybe he's trying it on. Who's to say?
Yeah, who knows?
You would think that NBC Philly would be like, can you get that guy away from the broadcast? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think the problem is when it's so quiet in there.
Yeah,
I don't know what you can do. I loved it. Please, don't.
I think there was a time when Embiid. There was a time during the game when Embiid, just before he took a foul shot, I believe, he kind of like looked at the fans and like made like a face. And I wonder if that guy was just like, it's very clear when no one is there, you could hear them very well. Yeah. And so I wonder if it's like Embiid's like, let's shut the fuck up.
Maybe it was Sixers Adam.
Might have been Sixers Adam screaming from that'd be a cool color on him.
By the way, pretty awesome thing. We've changed up Sixers Adam's like specific writing role. And he's doing like basically like 3 things gamers after every game, like 3 like Sixers Adam observations on the website, so you can check that out. More Sixers Adam.
One of them is which professional sport he could dominate if given enough time. Professional tennis player if he had a couple years of practice. Sixers Adam.
Write to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Write to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Everyone has been very good about emails and very good about one basketball, one non-basketball question. This is a good one, and it is related. I have a non-basketball question / jigsaw my roommate and I began discussing during the Jazz game, and I want to hear your thoughts. Rudy Gobert is 7'1" with a 7'9" wingspan. For the rest of your life, would you rather be 7'1" but have your current wingspan, or your current height with a 7'9" wingspan? We both ended up measuring our wingspans, and our arms would be at our knees with a 7'9" wingspan. We're both about 6'2".
Yeah, that'd be tough. Those would be some long ass arms on my 5'10" and a half frame.
Or you're the Brontosaurus Rex.
Yeah. Yeah, I have Alyssa has a positive wingspan differential. She's like +1.5 or so. I'm
great
-1, which is tough. It's a tough question. Neither is good.
No.
Neither of them is good. I would say if I was 7'1" with a long wingspan, I would never hold my arms out. I'd be walking around folded. I'd have my arms in like a sweatshirt pocket on my tummy all the time. You would never see it. I'd be wrapped in there all the time. I'd probably go myself now, I think is the answer. I don't want to be 7'1". That feels exhausting. I'd rather be like, hey, do you know Mike's arms are crazy long? I didn't notice that.
Can you imagine showing up for pickup basketball and like they see you from behind and then all of a sudden you turn around and you just got these.
I would be able to fly. I would say if I have my height with a 7'9" wingspan, I would figure out a way to fly.
For a shitty basketball question, I'm thinking of one just to fill the slot. If Matisse continued to improve to become the undeniable best defender in the league, could you see a world where he could win Defensive Player of the Year while providing practically zero offense? Even though it's strictly a defensive award, I feel like the offense has a small impact. That'd be tough.
I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But it's more likely with him than any other player I've ever seen. He is an excellent defensive player and a identifiably excellent. It's just a matter of if he's ever. I think he'll need to start.
Yeah,
I think he'll need to start to win. I don't think he's going to need to like become a 15 points a game guy, but I do think he'll need to start.
Yeah, Tony Allen never won Defensive Player of the Year, did he?
Yeah.
So it's hard as a wing guy. Most of the wing defensive players are good offensive players who also happen to be good defensive players, not the other way around. Who get
I do think Ben has a decent chance at winning it this year.
Yeah, he's the not saying he doesn't deserve it. It's weird because it's best, not most impactful. I think it's impossible for a wing defender to be most impactful.
Is it best?
Well, it's Defensive Player of the Year. So it's not impactful.
So it's player.
Right.
It's most player.
Right. It's whoever's the most. So it does seem like he has picked up enough narrative for it to at least make it. And I'll tell you, Gobert's a fucking fraud. I don't know how Gobert would win it over Embiid, honestly. I think Embiid is actually incredibly disrespectful in the defense conversation. I think there's a chance Ben could win it. I think if I were guessing, there's like a 40% chance that he wins it, which is much higher than I would have guessed previous to the season.
If the Sixers, why do you think the Sixers are not the best defense in the league?
Because I don't think their identity is not defense. I think the one thing that they're, beside personnel-wise, I don't know what kind of team they are. And I think they're a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I just don't think they have enough players who grind. And I know that sounds like a takey, but I really think that's what it is.
Yeah,
and it must be
disagree.
some scheme. It must be.
I think part of it is scheme. I think part of it is they go deep into the rotation and have aside from Matisse, there's, Shake is I'd say right now, league average, maybe, inconsistent defender, but with higher upside, but not quite there yet. Still a little raw. There's a number of guys that when they go to the bench, especially all bench lineups, it is sacrificed. I think Seth is a better defender than I anticipated. Although I still don't want him in. He's still limited, but I just wouldn't want him in at end of game defensive moments. But when they need to lock down, especially in clutch moments, they've been so good in clutch this year. And another great example of that tonight. I think that they have the potential to lock in and be, the best defense in the playoffs. I think would not surprise me at all.
They, what was I going to say?
Another reason to get Lowry to shore up that point of attack defense.
Yeah, which is you can see when they play good guards that is can be a bit of an issue for them. And the thing about, I was talking at work with Ike today about just Ben and like the idea of perimeter defenders. And this is why Toronto is so good, because everybody on the team defends, and like there's something about their scheme because they are terrifying defensively. But if like the thing about Ben is that it's just easy enough to get him switched onto somebody else, you know? So I think it's got to be a scheme thing. I don't know, man. I watch the Raptors, and even the way they contest threes is better than I've ever seen anybody. They somehow run up to the guy, put their arms up, and stop immediately in front of him.
Yeah, Ben does that really well also.
This is from Ross. Basketball question. If the NBA made a rule that all players could only use one arm while playing a game, which Sixer would become a better NBA player? Who would become worse is a dumb question, but is there any Sixer who would be better if they could only use one hand?
If everyone could only use one hand?
Oh, yes, all players. Yes. Who would benefit?
I think we know the answer. I think we know that Tony Roten would be the MVP.
Right.
That would be pretty clear.
Yeah, I guess all-time Sixer. Is there a current Sixer?
I think there's no Sixer that comes to mind right now that only goes one direction. I mean, if anything, it's like Tobias likes going left, but he also goes right. You just wouldn't expect him to like going left because he's a righty. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody.
And non-basketball Jigsaw, for the rest of your life, would you rather have to answer heck yes instead of yes for any question requiring the positive answer whenever asked about it? Oh, and whenever asked about it, you would have to explain that is because your love for Sixers president Chris Heck, or
that's what Heck yes came from.
Yeah. Or would you choose to have to introduce yourself to any new person like Bob Vance from The Office, Mike Levin from Rights to Ricky Sanchez?
I don't mind heck yes. I think people, I wouldn't love having to explain it. But yeah, saying the name of the podcast would be tough. That's really not my personality. Heck yes is closer to my personality. I'll go with heck yes.
I wouldn't even do Rights to Ricky Sanchez, and I don't have that same issue that you do. Couple more. From Ravi. Great emailer, by the way. I don't get to enough of his emails. They're too thoughtful. I was thinking about the Sixers team as is. This goes to what you're saying. And thinking what other teams could do to them defensively in the playoffs, specifically teams that are switch heavy. Looking back at Doc's previous team, the Clippers, their offense seemed to struggle immensely against switching teams like the Warriors, Nuggets, and Rockets. While I think this couldn't work as well in Embiid lineups, in non-Embiid or bench lineups, especially this season, they struggle as well against teams that switch. The way other teams got around this was by having a perimeter creator to overcome it. Do you have any perspective or thoughts on how they will deal with this in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's just so different considering Embiid. He's going to play 38, 40 minutes a game. I think that the Sixers have enough guys. You know, Ben is now more successful going at guys who are worse defensively. Mm-hmm. Tobias is very comfortable working in the post. I think Shake's significantly improved with the ball in his hands. Bench lineups wise, doesn't matter what defense you're playing against them. A lot of the time, they're not effective. If it's Korkmaz and Shake running around 3 folding chairs,
we can't play all bench lineups against.
No, that's not going to happen. But I think that as long like in the playoffs, there should be at least 2 of Shake, Tobias, Ben, Embiid on the court at all times, and I think that there will.
2 more, a question and a great comment. This is from Jamie. Who is a better shooter right now, do you think, Doc Rivers or Ben Simmons?
From where?
Let's say it's a challenge that includes free throws, 16-foot jumpers, and threes.
I'm assuming Doc didn't shoot many threes in his playing days.
Well, at the time, it wasn't really.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm looking up his stats as we speak.
So am I. But he was he hit in the 80s for his a bunch of years free throw wise. Shot 78% from the foul line for his career.
33% from three on not insignificant attempts. 2 3 attempts a game. Yeah.
361 career threes. I would say it's probably Doc. I think that's a very reasonable assumption to make. That I can't imagine him moving very well. It feels like he doesn't have much.
He's creaky.
It seems like there's not a lot of flexibility in his upper body at this point. Seems like a guy that can't lift his arms above a certain place. But yeah, I would say Doc is a pretty safe answer. Although Ben foul shooting is, looking good.
We got several emails about the the stage fright, urinals at the stage fright. One guy, and I'll give credit the next podcast, was like, pee in the stall with the door open. You're showing other people that you're the boss and you're not afraid to pee in the stall.
I agree with that.
And the door open assures them that you're not hiding from anybody. So,
yeah.
And Arsenio, all-star emailer Arsenio, says, no questions. This is in response to the good sir Chip Mitchell's question. I also can't pee in crowded restrooms. I attended the University of Tennessee and eventually gave up trying to use the bathroom at Vols games. However, my most amazing feat is going nearly 10 hours without using the bathroom at WrestleMania.
Wow. That is that's a good thing to hang your hat on. Speaking of WrestleMania, Young Rock.
Yes.
Set your series recordings on DVR, watch it on Hulu. My episode, I'm pretty sure my episode is next week. This coming Tuesday, episode 4, which is the first full University of Miami episode. A lot of football stuff in there if you like it. So just set your recording, watch your DVR, Hulu, Peacock, any of it. I'll take it. We love it. Thank you.
The final thing I wanted to mention, and this is a sort of serious thing, but we got it. I like to think that we have a good community here, and we got an email that was very nice, and I thought I would share. A guy named Michael emailed us, and him and his dad are running a marathon on their own personal marathon in tribute to Michael's brother, his dad's son, obviously, Ryan, who committed suicide 5 years ago. He was 16 years old. And they're raising money for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm going to put the links in this post. They gave me a Facebook link, and the Facebook one goes right to the charity, so you know where it's going. They also created a GoFundMe because I told them not everybody uses Facebook. They're running it. I'm thinking if they want me to, I can't run a marathon anymore, but I would love to spend a few miles with them. April 11th, they're running along the Delaware River Canal, but just a son and a dad running a marathon in honor of the brother, son, who was lost. And obviously this year for mental health, for depression, for anxiety has been just fucking awful. So I thought this was a great cause. And obviously our heart goes out to, David and Michael and their family. So
yeah, for sure.
I'll put the links in. If you listen on Apple, the links will be in there, or you can just go to our website, go to the post with this in it. So I appreciate the email. That's it. We have a break. Our special guest, who we were supposed to have last week, is going to be there on Saturday on the pod. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Seems like he wants to do it. We said it's Michael Bivens from New Edition and and Belle Biv DeVoe, and founded Boys to Men, and also a Celtics fan. So it'll be fun to give him some shit. That'll be Saturday. Enjoy first place.
First place.
First place. Are you down with TTP?
Then I won't
Yeah.
fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.